Okay.
From the 14th of the second month of 1443, 10 of needles and 8 of presents upright, 7 of potions, 2 the high priestess, and 4 of presents reversed. Leave suffering behind, but the pain and loss can be a lesson. Return again and again to the same kind without vain repetition. Variety of vision may overwhelm, but not all are fitting options. Among the forces, you will find your brand upon some self-reflection. The future is something about which to plan, but our efforts need healthy relations. And what are your initial?
Well, I picked up solid foundations, a time to pause and reflect, and a time of thorough planning. Like the more thorough and careful the planning is, the better an event would work out.
And so the easiest one probably to say something about here is the 10 of needles, which would be the 10 of swords. Leave suffering behind, but the pain and loss can be a lesson. And well, people don't sew and whatnot so much anymore, so you don't. It used to be. It hasn't been too long that you go from. I mean, at least somebody had a pin cushion, but then like you never see them.
Right.
I mean, there's still people, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It seemed at least if you had kids, you don't want to have to replace everything. Sometimes something got torn or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the standard now. Return again and again to the same kind without vain repetition. And they're doing the task and all that. One thinks of ritual, of course, and one of the things about rituals is that that bit in the Bible about vain repetition. It's like, well, it's not like that for the devotee.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that like that if you have experience. There's plenty of things people repeat in life that it's not,
Mm-hmm.
but little elves there, because obviously this is Santa Claus's workshop.
Yeah, a lot of little workers.
And I've pointed out what my favorite Christmas song is.
That was pretty cool. I hadn't thought about the toadies in quite a while. Yeah.
I know he's coming the same every year. And then it gets pretty dark from there, yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
But the 7 of potions, it's like the dream card kind of. It's when it's it's the cup card. Remember, Crowley has the debauchery, and so it's like drinking too much, but you're not drinking too much to the point where you don't even know what's going on, or some other drug use or some other thing. So a person's gone too far. But
That's for New
mean,
Year's. Kidding. But yeah.
and well, I remember somebody, their mother was like, well, I didn't get my act together till I was 30. It's like, well, no, don't excuse it. A lot of damage is going to be done before 30.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely different ages, but
That's why
it's
your
never,
daughter looks older than you.
yeah, certain things do age a person. Definitely.
Yeah, I was disappointed to see to you know, but
It is.
people some people give up easier than others to, so when I saw that firsthand with somebody, that was not cool. The High Priestess, Sally again. I don't really see much other than like she's surrounded by different forces, but they're not all encompassing. So
Mhm.
it doesn't really do much that you'd expect with a High Priestess thing, because like, the Rider-Waite Smith, what does it have? A crescent and a cross and a star. Isn't that what you have between the two?
Yeah.
Um,
High
well, I mean
Priestess.
the sun, the moon, and crescent, something like that. So it's supposed to be representative of like Christianity and other religions. But you have these different ways, the ethnic, the esoteric, and the exoteric, so
Mhm.
that literal and whatnot. But then there's like this, but they don't have to be in conflict. So at least she's not conflicting with it. And we have the Four of Presence, the oh, that would be so variety of vision overwhelms, but not all are fitting options. And then among the forces, you will find your brand upon some self-reflection. And this one, the future is something about which to plan. Well, little
Plan.
mice and little creatures dragging stuff into their hole. Um, they fill up and then they put some aside for later. You see, like I'm sure you found a mouse or a rat hole at some point, and there was more in there than rats. They had drug and other food
Yeah. And
of some sort.
they're good at making little beds out of all kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah, that too. It's like, one little mouse doesn't need 2 feet in each direction of insulation.
They're definitely creative little critters.
Um, but yeah,
They'll make
well,
it warm.
these ones are doing what they can. Now a lot of the extra cards, you see something else. But so, this tiny tarot, you have the guy releasing the bird. I don't know, is he supposed to be a post world card? And this
Hmm.
other one's like more of it inside this she's holding like a candle in the dark and searching about. So she's like maybe another side of the hermit. But the hermit, um, the U is not really a letter you can double. I don't think.
Uh-huh.
Um, Same with the Tau. So there's that. So in terms of the season, we would have the world card. I thought you said you were bringing those ups. And this world card, I'm talking about today when we're recording this. Tuesday the 6th of December 2022.
No.
So
The world card, would that be the universe card
yeah, the
in this?
universe.
Okay.
It's kind of like there's a K. A K is like the letter that tames or as or something like this. I know there's different meanings like in Hebrew that it's you, like it's but I like to think of the Kabbalah outside of its Arabic influences in a way. Yes, it has that pattern of the abbreviated letters with the Quran of how the tree of life is formed, and actually that, as much as they say it's older than the Sufi literature of the 1100s, it's not. So that's where it came from. But
Mm-hmm.
I like, to look at what was, because it's supposed to be the mystical way of looking at Ankh. And so the so-called Old Testament, as people like to call it, you know, that letter kaf doesn't mean you like it does in Arabic, but in later Hebrew, which is a Middle Ages invention. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that, but sorry about my notifications there. On your car, so we have basically the representatives of the corners of the zodiac, and she's naked, but she doesn't have to, you don't have to see too much of that to make that point. It's like her sari's falling off, but she's dead anyway, so she doesn't need it. No, not really. But her work's done, but there's more work to do. In the Crowley deck, it's like you're leading with a sickle into the hole, and there's that weird way of drawing the elemental table in some sort of house thing, but it's all coming back again, and in a way you can't tell whether it's going or coming. I also like the page, you know, that Princess of Discs. I like that Princess of Disc in that deck because, again, you know, the court cards are divided into male or female. That doesn't necessarily mean if one of these cards is your birth card or whatever, that we're genderizing that stuff. That's where we get into a lot of problems with some of these people that, you know, like somebody that I've referred some videos to you of, is that a lot of these gender stereotypes aren't quite really the thing, because really you're in every category regardless of whether you're male or female, and biologically there's only two genders. Anybody pretending otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. It's not it's easy to figure out sometimes with a baby or something, but
I think just because
that's like super rare that it's even hard to figure out as a baby. But the so yeah, so you have those three wheels, so fire, air, and water, combining in the earth card. So you have 36 petals of that, right? Isn't there 36 on that card? That wheel that this woman with her furs and huntress and all that stuff.
It's is that 21? Like a Roman numerals. Is that XXI? Is that 21?
No, that would be XXX VI. It's 36 shouldn't it be 12? Isn't it 12 by 12 petals? 12, 12, okay. 12. I forget whether it's red, blue, yellow, or what the order is exactly. Would be yellow, blue, red, and then naturally would form. And the Ace of Pentacles is very directed towards Crowley's creed in his, but you have basically the Pentacles can be thought of as creed in a way, and not the Christian band, although that was pretty good Christian music, just like Brian Head Welsh and his Love and Death, or his before he went band versus brand sort of thing. A lot of it is like what King of the you ever seen that King of the Hill episode? The guy's like, you're not making Christianity better, you're making rock and roll worse.
I probably haven't seen it. I know back in the day, Korn was just awesome when they first came out. I mean, we'd never really heard anything, you know, like that. It was like a new kind of, you know, heavy.
Well, that's the sort of thing. After this century, nothing new came out. Like last century, the 80s and the 90s, what you had some of the electronic stuff that was done new. They've come up with new subgenres and stuff like this, and some people have figured out how can you insert even more notes into a song using computer programs. So they've set new records, but it's the same types of music. The pulse rates and stuff like this remain the same. There's really not any differences there. The types of patterns, popular music is only 5 beats to the 5 beats sums up most of popular music, the rhythm of it. And you know, it's amazing some groups that did more got where they were. If everybody wants songs with 4 chords and they don't want, you know, much of whatever. But then again, their most popular songs were not necessarily their best songs. It was ones that fit sort of a mode. But the nightmare card, see, the nightmare card isn't always a bad card in itself either. And it's, you know, because it's something you have to break through. So there's experience on the way to something you have to break through. And we got the King of Swords, which is that month card. And the princess always represents, the princess or page, whatever you want to call it, always represents some sort of ascent, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's work to do. And it's not an insult. Now, if anybody thinks so in the future, no, it's not an insult if I have given anybody the nickname Princess, because I in my life have decided that certain people, that's their tarot card nickname forever, and no one else gets that.
Right.
And you know, it's not at all an insult that somebody specifically gets a court card. I mean, it can indicate there's possible issues that court card represents. I mean, issues isn't something negative or bad or something, but that doesn't mean, but it's honoring the potential. The king has lived out his potential and gets to rest. So he's worked something out with his intellect, but of course he's got to stay on guard before lest he fall. Like Eckankar talks about fallen leaves, and all these other people talk about their things that, you know, like people talk about the emotional stages of development. It's like, oh, I've gone straight to the socially inappropriate level of love of God. No, you haven't. If you haven't done the other stuff, you're not, if you're a failure with the other stuff, you can't just say, I'm socially inappropriate for God. No. And it's not what society or what one dictates anyways, but anyways, you know, people talk about that stuff. Or like you ascend the tree of life, and that left hand is actually where the charity and stuff resides, is that book and stone. You can't become a living book if there's no book and stone to work with.
Right.
You know, so you don't jump to Venus. You can't be Lucifer without being Nike first.
Right.
And you know, we got the Tower card, and I guess with the next one we can have you pull out the cards on your half. And so the people falling for the Tower, sometimes you see it very distinctly, like Christianity is going to be overrun by Islam and nature things at some point, and the church is like, it's become too crystallized and it needs to break up, right? But people get too associated with the body. That's the whole thing. You know, like I personally, you try to get to the point, whether you do use your books and stuff like this, but you get to the point where you can just, it's like, okay, I don't have books, I don't have ritual tools, I'm, you know, I got my pants on, I can do a ritual, or I don't got my pants on, I can still do a ritual.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
there's material.
I mean, there is something to getting off the toilet before you do whatever. It is kind of weird. I've knew this Hindu guy, you could say. I mean, his racial background, and it's like, what in the hell are you saying in the bathroom? You know, it's like every time you go to the bathroom, you chant. It's like you don't do this outside the bathroom, but what, you know.
I would say something funny, but I better not.
But the yeah, I've gone too far. Well, I mean, literally, who knows what demons he's summoning up in there. But you know, you got the death card. It's like, see, just like the world card, it's like a landmark. You know, this is a sign. It's not that death is it. And you see in the sequence, it's like, it's not, death's not the last card in the sequence. It's right there in the middle. But it's trampling on something. So it's trampling on some sort of perception or something that needs to die. And it can be stopped in some sense, you know, because you know, one of the deals you can't I'm sorry.
This death card, it's I'm actually just now really noticing it. Because I hadn't really got to this one, but yeah, it seems like there's like souls or a soul in the background right there,
Oh,
and
that guy, the guy right before the guy is stopping, because there is
it,
such a thing as slow suicide. People are like, oh, if I don't directly kill myself, it's like, yeah, no, if you die 30 years earlier because of your chemical use or because you're not eating right,
mhm,
you kind of whatever. So you kind of stop the unnecessary things leading to your death just to lead towards your death. What is it, Errol Flynn? Errol Flynn, My Wicked Wicked Ways.
mhm.
Um,
I remember that. He was,
drink heavy, smoke heavy, womanized.
yeah,
He died at 50, and well,
that young.
and can't you kind of see from some of the stuff off film that he
Mhm,
wasn't as happy, but he was a hedonist. But it's not what you typically expect from a hedonist. A hedonist is typically somebody their life. They're considering the
mhm.
consequences, and he considered the consequences. He just wanted to live life to its fullest in every category, regardless of the cost.
Yeah, yeah.
So, there are
Live
people who live in the moment, but they're like,
fast.
um,
Live
and
fast.
they are considering like, okay, this weekend I'm going to have a miserable week after this, but I'm going to be able to say I can had this weekend, right?
Live for the moment.
But yeah,
Not always a good
typically
idea.
a hedonist likes things calm and and is
Yeah.
not falling over drunk and all that other stuff. And um, so because Epicureanism, what the stereotype was is you go off and live in the country and don't spend as much time around people and study and enjoy nature and all that.
Yeah, that
Um,
sounds
and it
nice.
doesn't, and it's not, you definitely you got a wife and kids out there and stuff too. So it's not like, um, well, there's good and bad points in every type of philosophy, but people forget that philosophy is more method. It's not just you quote stuff. I mean,
Right.
certain Epicureans, like, oh, this guy was like the prophet of Epicureanism. It's like, okay, maybe he was or whatever, but you don't have to believe that to consider that aspect. I don't have the paper. I wrote it once, like something like 60 different philosophers, and I was trying to make my point with 60 different philosophers. It wasn't just because I liked this quote and I was uh,
Hmm.
picking and choosing, as people like to say it. Um, I was trying to make my point from all those different angles.
Uh-huh.
But honestly, most of my philosophy is scholastic philosophy. It's not as much as I'd like it to be. Oh, this is Aristotelian and this is Nietzschean and this is the. It's like, well, yeah, but most of it is scholastic. I think as long as I have scholastic philosophy, I'm fine.
Right.
You know what scholastic philosophy is, of course.
Hmm.
It's you make summaries. So basically you're capable of making glosses with little comments directly to it or whatnot. Um,
Yeah.
it's very, very, academic. But there's more work to do with the stuff. So,
Yeah.
but
By using a lot of